Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? It's Amanda. Today is the 20th of January. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. I feel it's important to put a timestamp on this video because, to be honest, by the time you end up watching this, or the time that it goes out, even if it's in a few hours from now, events are moving so fast in our world that there probably will be new pieces of information for us to be digesting and trying to get our head around. Because things on the world stage are unravelling, is the word I'm hearing Spirit say, very fast right now. And during this unravelling and dismantling process, it brings a lot of uncertainty and also dysregulation of our nervous system, of our understanding of what the world has been up to now and what it could be in the future. And my aim with this video, despite what any of the naysayers are going to say, because I have no doubt that they will come at me, is to try to create understanding, bring some support to the people out there who are just wondering what the hell is going on, where does this lead, and maybe feeling fear, anxiety, or certainly in a state of heightened fight or flight. I'm sure I'm not the only person who seems to wake up every day opening their phone or a newspaper or however you get your information thinking, what the hell has happened overnight? I'm based in the UK, so of course things that maybe are happening in the USA, we don't get the story until we've woken up. I feel as though I would like to I'm dedicating this video to anybody that's going to find it helpful, but I am going to be coming at this whole subject of Greenland, the dismantling of NATO, the dismantling of the old world order for something new to replace it. I'm going to come at it from a European, EU, non-American perspective. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to reference USA. We absolutely will, because we are all connected and we all need each other. But I feel as though no one is really speaking up necessarily for some of these countries that are being particularly affected. There is going to be considerable change within the EU. There's also considerable change within Canada and much of the world. So we're going to reference USA, but we're going to be looking at this almost from the rest of the world's perspective. And it's a bit of a struggle because I suspect, particularly if you're an American viewer, some of you, particularly if you're only tapped into maybe very mainstream narrative news, you may have a particular view which is maybe a little bit skewed, linked into just an American view. So I'm hoping that by giving you another view of how we are seeing things over here, as it were, the other side of the Atlantic, it will help to maybe fill in some of the gaps. And we all, of course, can learn from each other. It's not that we don't want to hear what the American perspective is. It's more just that it feels, I think, for many of us over here, or outside USA, that the dialogue and the rhetoric and the booming voices coming at us are very loud and clear with regards to what is wanted. And it does feel quite bullying, certainly in respect of, for example, proposed tariffs. I am a small business owner myself that exports to the USA from the UK. At the moment, for example, we have a 10% tariff. I don't have an issue paying that. Well, actually, it's not me that pays it, it's the American customer, but it affects my business, of course. But the proposal is it goes up to 25% from June. And of course, it's not just the UK, it'll be across the whole EU. So we're into sort of a trade war, a tariff war. We are into a war of words. We are into maybe a potential war as well. And I think it's just important to hear all perspectives. So right now, as I say, I'm going to start this video from a EU perspective, but as I say, I'm also including within that other countries, particularly Canada. So from where we are sitting right now, how is it feeling? And as I say, before I answer that, this is all coming on the back of Donald Trump's insistence, very vocal insistence, that he needs to acquire Greenland, needs to maybe purchase Greenland for military strategy. My understanding is that there is already a lot of cooperation within Greenland linked into the USA being able to do what it needs with regards to strategic military precision. But this isn't just about adding to it. It is actually about taking over. I'm sure you all know what I'm going on about anyway. And it does feel very imperialistic. It feels as though we're almost getting a flashback to a more colonial time. And I am going to talk about that because I feel as though there is actually a healing opportunity for our world, wherever you sit right now, to heal the stain of imperialism, empire, etc. It's as though we're getting another look at what that feels like. Because most of us, I mean, I'm British, but I wasn't alive during the British Empire, where we were storming across the world, taking over territories. Or maybe you're in Spain and the Spanish Empire, you weren't alive then either. There are many countries that have had empires. So we are given an opportunity to really look at what that feels like and to do something about it. And I suspect that will be a separate video that I will actually put out. Anyway, so from the EU's perspective then, and I think I'm speaking for many, these are considered words. I've been sitting with it for some time. The first thing I think you will experience if you were in a different place, maybe to USA, is it feels like a betrayal of an ally. And it feels very much as though the trust that once was there has gone. Very much like any other type of relationship, when the trust has gone and the trust is broken, the relationship is often completely fractured to the point which it can't be repaired. Now, you might be feeling that if, for example, Donald Trump was out of the equation, somehow the repair of the fracture would be better. But the timeline we're on at the moment is one whereby the most likely scenario, should Trump not be in power, is that J.D. Vance take over. And from what I can see of Vance, he shares a lot of the ideology that Trump has started. So I see a continuation of this rhetoric, of this energy of power grab that is coming from the current US president, even if he was no longer around. So we're left with the feeling of betrayal of a once trusted ally. And this has a number of repercussions. Can I just say at the outset, because maybe some people don't understand this, and I'm not saying I have all the facts at my fingertips because I don't. But the truth is that NATO, which has been around for many decades post-Second World War and has helped to keep the peace, it's not a perfect model or organisation, and indeed there does need to be a tower moment within it, which is what Donald Trump is creating here, for something hopefully better to be built in its place. But the whole premise of NATO is that you have each other's backs, and you don't, and you speak as one, you work as one, you move as one, and you don't have any NATO member turning against any other NATO member. So USA being a member of NATO, threatening its allies via what feels like blackmail to us over here, that if, for example, you don't do this, we are going to start a trade war with you, for example. We are going to do it, whether you like it or not. It fractures that whole agreement. And what it does is, with NATO weakened, probably dismantled before something else is built in its place, and I'll come to that, it brings the likelihood of war closer to our doors. Whether you are in Europe, whether you're in UK, or whether you are in Canada, it brings the likelihood of war closer to our door. I noted yesterday, I think it was, there was an article with regards to Norway, for example. Norway, of course, close to Denmark. Denmark, of course, very close to Greenland. And I believe 13,500 citizens in Norway have been sent letters informing them that their houses, their homes, their cars could be seized by the military in the event of war breaking out, and that letter or that notice of intention lasts for the next 12 months from here. So you also have other European governments, and as I say, I also include UK here, sending out advice to their populace with regards to what they need to prepare for in the event of the outbreak of war. And by this, we're talking provisions, saved additional food, water, radio, batteries, candles, there's quite a long list. Now, this isn't necessarily to feel that we all have to be running around in fear, but it's just preparatory advice. And I'm adding this in because I'm trying to build the climate of what we are feeling here and what has been made more heightened by the current president's actions. The trade war I've talked about, and one interesting component of it is, the understanding with tariffs and trade wars is that actually they hurt everybody. And particularly they hurt the American people because, for example, me as a business owner, it's not me that's paying the tariff, it's you, the customer. And that applies to anything that an American is buying which comes in from overseas. So the cost of everything goes up. And you might say, well, it's okay, I don't need a book or a piece of art or whatever it is. But if you actually understand the way that the world works, everything that we own in most of our homes, the component parts of it come from many different countries. Your TV sets, your computers, your mobile phones. Very few things right now are just consisting of components from one country and one country alone. We are all reliant ultimately on international trade, which is why we need to be keeping relations peaceful rather than antagonistic, which is where we're at the moment. An interesting analogy that I'm being given by Spirit with regards to trade wars is the analogy of the dog. So, let's just say a dog, or any pet really, but a dog in particular. A dog always has a master that feeds it, walks it, looks after it, and to that dog, that master is the whole world. And it will do everything it can to be close to its master, to make sure that it keeps being fed, keeps being looked after, keeps being walked. If that master suddenly is no more, for whatever reason, disappears for whatever reason, the dog will always find a new master to basically look after it because it knows its survival depends upon it. And right now, this is what's happening with regards, for example, to the EU But I'm not trying to present the EU as something that is very weak, because when we go further into this, we need to understand the power that the EU does still hold as a trading bloc. I believe that they hold trillions, for example, in USA debt, which, if they called back, would severely weaken the dollar to the point of collapse. So this dog isn't some weak, petrified animal, but it will always look for somebody else to support it. And we're already seeing this in relation to big new trade agreements that are being formed. I believe there was a huge trade agreement between the EU and Brazil, so Southern America, and also I believe that Ursula von Leyen, the EU Commissioner, is talking about an even bigger trade agreement with India and the EU, which is going to be announced in the coming days. We also have Mark Carney in Canada going directly to China to secure huge deals. And that's a pragmatist at the end of the day that knows that goods need somebody there needs to be somebody who wants to buy. And of course, that works both ways. So it feels as though Trump is pushing his allies into other people's arms. And whether that is his intention or not, I don't know. But it feels as though it is the end result. The dog analogy, I think, is quite an interesting one. What is arising from an EU perspective is, who are we as a bloc without the USA? And in particular, this is linked into, for example, knowing that we can, under this current administration anyway, no longer rely on American support should we get into trouble. There's a lot written about Article 5 of NATO, whereby my limited understanding is that if it is invoked, which is a request for help, other NATO nations will come to your aid. And I believe it's actually only ever been invoked once, and that was by the USA after 9/11, and it was a request for help in Afghanistan. And NATO countries did respond to that request by the USA and went to their aid. But it's not as though, the rest of Europe has been constantly requesting help the other way. Anyhow, other ways that the EU, Europe can retaliate, and this is something to watch. And I am, by the way, going to do cards later on in this, but I do have to just say what I'm feeling is important to voice before we get to that. The feeling at the moment from the American presidency, you see, is that the EU is this weak dog that sort of almost needs to be put down or is suffering in some way. Not understand, you see, because what I keep hearing Spirit say is that Trump is going to get a bloody nose. And that is metaphorical, it's symbolic, it's about wading into something and not understanding the full ramifications of doing so, of taking on the EU, basically. There are a number of American bases across the whole of Europe where America relies on many countries, including my own, as staging posts, which it needs for military might, for refueling gaps, and of course much more. Intelligence sharing is another component which might be severely affected. If allies no longer feel like allies, then why would you share information with somebody that you don't trust anymore? We're back to that fractured relationship. So the threat of American bases either being, revoked or pulled, how likely that is, I don't know, but it is one threat out there. Restricting access to US technical giants such as Google, Microsoft. But the most important thing, as I say, is the fact that the EU, I believe, hold the most amount of US debt in bonds and equities. And again, if that is sold off, revoked, called in, the USA dollar is in huge trouble. So it's the American people that suffer as a consequence of that. I do believe that a few pension funds have already started to, I don't know what the term is, call in their equities or sell whatever they've got. So, you know, this is a substantial problem. I do believe that ultimately what we're seeing as the dismantling of NATO is going to lead to a reformed structure and organisation, which probably won't have the name NATO. It'll be NATO, but in a different form, with a different structure, with a different funding, with different nations involved as well. Maybe with the absence of USA, which would have seemed completely and utterly unthinkable up to this point in time, but I think it's where we are. The speech by Mark Carney yesterday at Davos was interesting, probably worth a read. The way it's being reported over here is that he came across as a pragmatist, sane, just basically, I think he talked about a rupture, rather than a fracture, which is the word I've used, a rupture of the old way of doing business, the old way of international relations, and pretty much all bets are off now, and that there needs to be a new formation, regrouping, built on common values of, in fact, let me just get up a little summary of what he did say. I'm not going to read his whole speech because I'd be here forever. But yeah, there was, where did I see it? Yeah, there's a little summary here, which I thought just was worth reading. It's only a paragraph. Prime Minister Mark Carney's speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos was a powerful declaration of the end of the rules-based international order and the beginning of a harsh reality where geopolitics among great powers is not subject to any constraints. Carney emphasised that middle powers like Canada have the capacity to build a new order that embodies their values, such as respect for human rights, sustainable development, solidarity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. He highlighted the importance of honesty as the foundation of the power of the less powerful. His speech was a call for middle powers to work together to counter the rise of hard power and the great power rivalry aiming to build a more cooperative and resilient world. Now, whatever you think of Carney, and I know there's a lot of people on my channel who intensely dislike him, I'm on record of saying when he came in that I felt he was a safe pair of hands economically. He was a former Bank of England governor here. He always struck me as being very cool and calm and collected in a crisis. And it's interesting. I think what we're seeing right now, I mean, all of these leaders effectively that we have on our world stage at the moment don't necessarily belong to New Earth. They're not going to be the leaders that lead us into New Earth, but they are here at the dismantling of old Earth. And if you are somebody that feels threatened by Donald Trump's actions, triggered by Donald Trump's actions, feel as though he is the danger in the room, although he's actually the wrecking ball, and I've talked about this many times. He's the wrecking ball that's meant to bring down anything that no longer has validity or cannot make it through to whatever the new era looks like. Because there are issues with NATO, there are issues with most organisations and power structures in our world. But as I've often said, he might be the wrecking ball, but you don't have to like the wrecking ball. You can also be compassionate with regards to the devastating consequences of the wrecking ball coming in many shapes and forms and doing the damage it's meant to do, because it's a dismantling energy. But, you know, you can look at somebody like Trump with maybe horror. Some of you might still have pride, but a lot of people are looking with horror at what he's doing. And what it's actually doing, and this is just energetically, is it's promoting some of these other leaders in many people's minds. It might not be in your mind. It might not be in my mind. I'm just talking collectively at the moment. It is elevating other leaders' energies to almost look like they're the sane one in the room. Now, it could be that the whole room is insane, but they are appearing the most sane. I mean, I never thought I would say it, because I am not a Keir Starmer supporter, and you know I'm not. Even though every time I've tried to do a reading on him, I always try to be loving and open-hearted. But, you know, like a vast majority of the UK, we're not happy with Keir Starmer. We would much prefer that he is not our Prime Minister. But over the last few days, I have to say, I am surprised that he's actually sounded relatively sane. I've liked his demeanour. He's been quite calm. He's been quite collected. Certainly as opposed to maybe what is coming out of the White House at the moment. I didn't sit through all of it. I did see the 2-hour speech that Trump gave yesterday, which was just quite something, really, you know, compared to a more considered, concise speech, whether it be by Starmer or Carney. And yeah, I know a lot of you are getting triggered by what I'm saying now, because you're wanting me to stay in a particular camp, and I refuse to do so. I'm not for any one camp. I'm just trying to see where this is going, looking at the individual players. And I really, truly believe that if we are all very tunnel visioned and we look at our leader, whoever they may be, whether they're Starmer, Trump, Carney, Macron, and all we can see is either the good or the bad, we are in an echo chamber. We truly are. So there are going to be some leaders right now who are appearing more sane, who are appearing more controlled, who might very well be an important part of the new jigsaw to be created. And then their time is done and somebody else comes in. I don't see Mark Carney being replaced. I really don't. I think he's here for a while longer. He's got a job to do. And Macron as well. I mean, you know, again, I'm not a big Macron fan at all, but and yeah, I know he's appearing with his Top Gun glasses, and it all is looking quite over the top and ridiculous. And it is a bit of a pantomime what is happening at the moment, and we shouldn't get too invested into the whole drama of it all. But that doesn't mean we can't try to at least understand what's going on. Otherwise, we're just burying our head in the sand. But I am feeling that some of these leaders, particularly Carney, Macron, the German guy, what is his name? Friedrich Merz, Ursula von der Leyen, Starmer, if he can survive here in the UK, they are going to be important people around the negotiating table. And right now, this negotiating table, which links into what the hell do we do when NATO is no more and we can't rely on it, and what do we do now? That's the table. And right now I'm trying to feel into, can I feel Donald Trump there? And I can't. It's going to be very interesting this week at Davos, you know, how they deal with him. I saw Gavin Newsom talking yesterday about, you know, quite offensive actually, I think, quite arrogant, about, you know, he should have bought his knee pads so that the EU leaders could kneel down a little bit more, you know, implying that they're all just very subservient to Trump still, and, you know, they've got to get tougher. To that, I would say, maybe you need to direct your attention to Congress, who should be standing up to him. You know, isn't that the point of Congress? But anyway, really, the whole thing is, it's going to be quite a week looking at what happens. Watch how the leaders respond to Trump, or whether they do, whether he's included. To be honest, anything could happen. And it almost feels as though from the other side of the Atlantic's perspective, whatever is agreed right now with Trump, it can all be ripped up tomorrow. So this is the instability and the volatility, and you can't run anything on that basis, you know. So who are going to be the stabilizing forces? And you might be surprised at who the stabilizing forces are. And you might have to confront some very deep prejudices and dislikes. And you can still dislike them, absolutely. But you might find that actually there's some common sense coming out of some people's voice boxes that you never would have expected. Okay. So, and we always have to keep open-minded to everything, including, you know, common sense being spoken by Trump, and that's not meant to be derogatory. You know, keep an open ear. There are truths that he's saying as well. He's got his perspective, which is valid. There are people that still support what he's trying to do, etc. But anyway, what else? Okay, I want to say a few more things. This is quite hard to say, guys, you know, because I honestly, I know how high the attacks can be when you just speak from your heart and say your truth. But I've come this far. I've done over 1,000 videos now on YouTube. And, you know, I do believe these are times where we have to speak our truth. To not do so and to just be silent so that others maybe assume that you're okay with everything that's going on. I'm not okay with everything that's going on. And that doesn't mean I'm not Violet Pill anymore. It just means that this is my truth. This is my voice. I will listen to your truth. I will listen to your voice. But I think many of us are very fed up of being shouted down. Within a Violet Pill circle, you have to allow people to speak. So I'm speaking. Again, this might be an out-of-date statistic now. I believe that Donald Trump has or is proposing to offer an extraordinary amount of money to each person living in Greenland, which is bribery, by the way. Bribery and bullying. But anyway, when I wrote this, which was a few days ago, there was a poll saying 85% of Greenlanders do not want to become American. I have to say, one of the most disturbing things that I heard recently, this was a few weeks back, was Ted Cruz. And I want to bring this statement in that he said, because it says so much. And in many ways, it is the problem. It's the problem. It's the elephant in the room. And this isn't necessarily maybe just an American problem. We can see reflections of this in other countries, whether it's in the past or the present. Ted Cruz said this when, you know, I think he was challenged about, well, maybe Greenlanders don't want to become Americans and don't want you to come in and invade. Ted Cruz said, the greatest gift that we can give anyone on the planet is becoming American. That still sends chills through my body. And again, that's why I said there are reflections of this in other countries, whether it's past empires. I'm British. We did this, you know, we did this centuries ago. We had an empire, the Spanish Empire, the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire. I mean, how many, our world seems to have been built on empires, but we are entering New Earth at some point. And empire doesn't come into New Earth. So what Trump is doing is helping us to take another look at what that is, how ugly that is. But that statement by Cruz, the greatest gift we can give anyone on the planet is becoming American, it is so arrogant. And it would be arrogant even if it was coming from somebody in Britain or France or Germany saying the same thing about their country. We can be proud of our nationality. I'm proud to be British, but I don't believe it is the greatest nation on earth, even though, yeah, we're called Great Britain. But believe you me, British people do not go around thinking that they are the greatest thing on the face of the earth. If anything, we're very self-deprecating and have a lot of humour. This generation anyway, you know, maybe not previous ones. So it's just an anathema to me that I can't understand, or I don't even want to understand the thinking behind that. It is imperialist, and if you can't see that, I don't know what to say, really. But anyway, that's what's coming out. Okay, so there was also something Trump said recently with regards to Denmark's ownership of Greenland. I can't remember the exact words he used, but it was something along the lines of, well, they only own it because their boat landed there first. Can we not feel into the hypocrisy of that, even if that is true? That's why I've got him on the wall. The indigenous ones in America, you know, what was done to them? The boats that landed there and took over, you know, and are still subservient decades later. I feel as though there are two voices coming out of USA. There is a very strong voice coming forward with regards to the indigenous ones and the land, which is the true America. And then this other very loud, angry voice, which is coming from the political circus right now. So, I've written down here, no man is an island, not even USA. Tied into that, you know, it's obviously a quote from philosophy, isn't it? No man is an island. And it's almost as though USA have finished, I think that you've finished your Pluto return, but at the end of a Pluto return, there is always a humbling of ego, or there should be. And I think there is something whereby, however crazy and chaotic this is now and unpleasant for everybody on the planet, whether you're European, Canadian, Australian, African, American, because no one's enjoying this process of everything being thrown up in the air, even if something new is going to be built, which is better. It's not pleasant. None of it is. I think the end game for USA is coming to a realization that actually you do need other countries. And I know many of you watching me know this, okay? But there is a proportion of Americans who don't get it. Do you know, those of you that watch a lot of my videos, in the last few videos, I think I've referenced Threads a few times. And I think I am on Threads, but I've only put about 3 or 4 posts ever on it. It seems to be linked into Instagram. But anyway, for whatever reason, it was all, you know, looking quite innocent up until a few weeks ago. You know, people just posting about random stuff. And I don't know whether it's just I'm stuck in an algorithm that keeps being presented to me, but I keep being shown these threads by Americans, and I'm assuming it's bots. It cannot be real, which are like trying to poke and prompt the rest of the world with regards to how great we are, and don't you realise what happens here? I'll give you an illustration because it has to be bots, guys. There was one, and it had gained a lot of traction. You might have seen it if you're on Threads. Somebody posted a picture of like a big supermarket, and it was like, look what you're missing. Do you even know what this is? And of course, other people, you see, this is the power of the social media, for good or ill, were replying and saying, well, of course we know what a supermarket is. Of course we know what a hypermarket is. If you're in France, actually, you go and, well, not everybody does, but, you know, we go and buy our bread fresh from a bakery every day. We go to a charcuterie to get our, you know, provisions, etc. I know it's a bit of a generalisation, but you get my point. So I think we're also up against right now bots, which are trying to provoke the rest of the world. But unfortunately, the Ted Cruz quote was not that. It did come out of his lips, and it is quite extraordinary. So back to the long-term future of USA, I think it will be a USA that is humbled, that actually understands that Europe is not its threat. And I know a lot of you already get this. I'm just talking about the rhetoric right now. It's a response to that. Because ultimately Trump is only expressing something that other people feel there. He's only voted in because He represents something that is deep within the psyche of the country. Okay, so we can't just blame one man. He is a mirror. He's a mirror to all of us. He's a mirror to all of us wherever we are. And he's also a dismantler, and he's doing a good job. He's fulfilling his soul contract, which is why I refuse to get into the name calling and the nastiness and, you know, shooting daggers energetically at him. I'm not about that. But I am voicing here how we are feeling in the rest of the world, you know, and that's okay to do. So, think that's what I've got written down. And I've said this before as well, going back to this whole thing about colonialism and imperialism and, you know, I'm an American or I'm a Brit or I'm a Dane and, you know, and it brings out a nationalistic energy in us all, because don't forget, we've all had past lives. I'm an old Viking girl, you know, as well as having Native American blood as well, believe it or not. I know I don't look like I have, but I am. I've got 11% Native American blood on my paternal grandfather's side. But I've also got Viking blood. You know, that Viking blood can rise up in the same way that your American blood can rise up when we are triggered, when we're prodded, when we are asked to question, we get provoked. The one thing I think can heal this and help us understand that actually you're not my enemy, you know, and I'm not your enemy, is our blood. Okay, so I just mentioned, you know, some of my genetic makeup. But, you know, if you ever have a DNA test or a blood test and, you know, particularly DNA tests, and I mean, I haven't had it done. It's my brother. So my brother is 11% Native American, but I probably will have a similar amount. But anyway, I might get it done one day. I'm quite interested. But I know I've got it for all sorts of reasons, which I'll talk about another day. The point I'm trying to make is you start to realise, oh, I'm not just 100% British. I'm actually a little bit German. I'm actually 25% German. I'm a little bit Swiss. I'm a little bit this. I'm a little bit that. And so are you. I mean, some people are just 100%. But again, even that. Now, I'm not going to get into that now because we're getting into past lives, but you get my point. You know, try to see yourself as containing all the races, all the history, all the past lives, I will bring it in, that you've been, yeah? That you have been what you are judging now, that you've been the conqueror and you've also been the invaded, because you absolutely have. You absolutely have. You've been the one that's invaded and you've been the invader. Yeah, you've been both. You've been the warmonger and you've been the peace bringer. We have all of it within us. And right now, what Trump is doing is, it's like I'm being shown a piano board. He's playing all the notes. So which note, and I'm hearing like a clanging, some people are just like clanging that one note, which is, I am triggered, you have said this. You are wrong, I want to say this. Let's play the whole notes, yeah? Which is about listening to each other, not attacking each other. It's just, this is how I feel. This is how I feel. How do you feel? Okay. Anything else to say here? No, I think I've done that. I've now got, I'm now going to pull some cards. But more than anything, whatever the cards say, what I've just said is what I intuitively have been feeling. I have sat with this and, you know, I'm not going to make any apologies. I've got 3 decks here. I've got one for USA. I've got one for, actually this is the Nordic Tarot, so it's Scandinavian in nature. And I think our Scandinavian neighbours are feeling particularly threatened, you know, on all sides. Finland, potentially by Russia. Denmark, for obvious reasons. Norway, for obvious reasons. UK, I think, is in danger. And by that, I just mean, I think we're a bit of a sitting target. But anyway, I haven't got a deck specifically for UK. I've got one for America, which is the Lionsgate Tarot. I've got one for, I just want to say Scandinavia, but we could also just say it's the European deck, I think. And I've got a Native American deck here, or it has aspects of that within it, which is called Vision Quest. The Vision Quest Tarot, which I'm going to use for this second voice coming out of America, because I really feel there are two voices. And I'm also going to weave in a few archangels. I did pull a couple of cards from my own Archangel Metatron deck before. How am I doing for time? Before I started this, and I got 3. I'll just quickly show you what they are. We got Wake Up Call, obviously. This is a wake up call, you know, what's going on in our world at the moment. But the first one that actually came up was Love. And what's interesting about this card of Love is it says on it, relationships and harmony. So the wake-up call is in relation to our relationships with each other, across borders, across countries, across alliances. I also want to say, can we love the disruptor? You know, because from a spiritual perspective, we should be able to be able to see that Trump has an important soul contract here to be dismantling the old, and it makes him unpopular. And we don't have to like him. As I say, I know lots of people do. Some of you are watching me do. I think he's great. But a lot of people don't. And that feeling is definitely growing this side of the Atlantic. I can absolutely tell you that. You know, if I went outside my street now, I would find it hard to find somebody who's probably got good words to say about him. I'm just being honest with you, okay? But anyway, you know, sending love to that as well. And then the third card is family, circles of life. Metatron reminding us that we are all family. We are all family. We're not just American, we're not just British, we're not just Danish, we're not just Canadian. We are one family, we're the human race. And somehow we need to get along with each other. And it's interesting that the rose is on the card here of relationships and harmony, which is tied, I think, into the divine feminine energy that's very needed at this time. But the divine feminine energy isn't just sort of like some soft little, you know, yielding, oh, pretty rose. Remember, a rose has thorns, you know? So, I don't know, there's some strong feminine voices that are needed right now on our planet as well. Okay, let's pull a few cards. I'm not going to go on and on and on in this video, but I will pull some cards. Let me just have some water. Oh, I want to pull an Archangel card. I feel as though we need that. I'm going to pull an Archangel card, and I'm also going to show you a colour that I think is very important for these times. Right, this is... It's weird, actually. It's an old Doreen Virtue deck called the Archangel Oracle cards. But on the bottom of the deck, we've got Ganesh. He's not an archangel, so I don't know why she's included. They're not all archangels. So why is it called an archangel deck? Oh, I've put it in the wrong box. I've put it in the wrong box. Isn't that interesting? We've got the Ascended Masters in an Archangel box. Anyway, whatever. We've got Ascended Masters. Let's see who wants to come forward to help us. So Ganesh was there. And of course, he is the remover of obstacles. He can help remove the obstacles to peace, is what I'm hearing. Let's see what else we get. Ascended Master energy for the world right now. Very, very interesting. I can't pronounce it, but it says listen. Listen to each other. You see, everyone's yelling at each other. Trump is yelling at us. That's how it feels. It feels as though he's yelling at us. He is yelling at us. He's pointing his finger. He's bullying. Unless he gets his way, this is what we're going to do, whether you like it or not. It's not a listening energy. Even his greatest admirers have to be able to say he's not the greatest listener, certainly not at the moment. So we're being asked to listen. Manjushri. We've also got Mother Mary on the bottom of the deck as well, reminding us to look after ourselves, nurture ourselves. Okay. Oh, the colour energy, magenta. Magenta, because magenta is an energy which is the bridge to the new. So at the moment, where we're at in the world is like, there's one aspect where the old world is on fire, you know, or being drenched in rain. If you're here in the UK, you can probably hear it slamming against my windows again. The old world is on fire, okay? It's being burnt to the ground, basically. The new world is not quite here yet. There might be some ideas in terms of what it might be. And of course, dependent upon your viewpoint, you might be helping to manifest in a lower timeline of dystopia by constantly focusing on that. Or you might be hoping for something a little bit better, which is the camp I'm in. So utopia, I don't know if that's going to be possible within the next few years, but certainly a better world. I just want to say a better world, a rebirthed world, green shoots of recovery, new ideas, new leaders, not necessarily new principles, because I don't think there's anything wrong with the old principles. And by that, I'm talking about heart-centered consciousness, forgiveness, compassion, love, forgiveness. It's just that not enough of us have been really embodying them, but this newer earth, we do. That's the entry price, is what I'm hearing. So the magenta energy just helps us walk over and transition between the two. That's lovely. One thing I always notice when I spray magenta is that it slows things down, slows down time. You see, time feels as though it's escalating so much at the moment, and we can't keep up with events. As I say, by the time I've posted this, something else will have happened. But anyway, you can write in the comments below. But magenta just slows it all down so that we can be present. And when we're present, we're able to affect change. We're able to help to reduce the chaos, to see the higher potential, to dream in a better world, basically. Okay, I'm going to start with the Nordic Tarot. So I'm going to pull a couple of cards right now with regards to the EU. Okay, the EU's energy right now. The first thing I'm hearing before I pull the card is reinforcement. So it's as though there's a ring of steel going around it. So it's in protective mode. Two very good cards. The card that has come out is the Empress, and the one on the bottom of the deck is the Star. The Empress and the Star. The Star says wishes. The Empress says nurture. Again, I'm not a big fan of the woman, Ursula von Leyen. She always reminds me a bit of Thatcher. I think it's the hair. But again, Margaret Thatcher, whether you liked her or not, she was a strong leader. And there's something about Ursula which reminds me of Margaret. The strength there. Whether this Empress is her or not, I don't know. Whether this is just... the Empress is a sign of fertility at the end of the day. It's certainly not death. It's not death, is it? It's not an ending energy. It's the Empress is pregnant. The Empress is pregnant with new life, with something to be formed from the ashes of all of this. One more card. EU. EU's energy in response to Donald Trump's threats, particularly with regards to Greenland and trade. The EU's energy towards Donald Trump. We've got the Page of Pentacles, new experiences, and we've got the Three of Cups, friendship. This is what and we've also got the Wheel of Fortune, fate. It's sort of, and we've got the Ten of Swords, completion. It's what I've said. Page of Pentacles is new experiences. Three of Cups is friendship. The EU looking to who are my partners now? Who are my friends? Literally, who are my friends? Who are my allies? Needing to have new experiences with new friends. I wouldn't be at all surprised if, for example, UK either goes back into the EU. I know we had Brexit and we came out. I am on record of saying, and I think I said it within weeks of the Brexit vote happening, that I thought we would go back in. And everyone shouted me down and said, don't be so bloody ridiculous. I felt that then, and I still feel it now. Now, it might not be another referendum. It just feels as though it's closer links and closer ties. And we can all have an opinion on that. But I just, again, back to the dog analogy. UK knows it needs allies, and it needs support, and it needs somebody to sell its goods to. So if the US play hardball, as it looks like they're going to, then where do we sell to? And they're going to look to their neighbours next door. So anyway, that's just one example. But anyway, new experiences and friendship, but it's a page, it's not a king. So this is still all very much in its infancy. But there's a degree of fate to all of this, and completion. Ten of Swords is completion. I like the fact it's not endings. It's not like, a typical depiction of the tarot where the guy is, he's got the 10 swords in his back and it's all very gothic and it's the end and it's horror. No, this is just completion. It's completion. And look at that. It's fate. It's fate. And I don't know if you can see this in terms of my camera, but we've got three people underneath a tree. Wheel of Fortune, fate. Here we've got three energies, friendship and new alliances. There are three main powers. There are three main leaders or main powers within the EU that are going to be very instrumental. I feel France and Germany. Not sure about the third. Not sure about the third, so I'm not going to hazard a guess at that. Okay. Let me just ask one other question. The EU's response if Trump... I couldn't even get the question out. I've had two cards flow out. I was going to say if Trump were to invade... if Trump were to invade Greenland... So I didn't actually even get the message out, but we've got the 6 of Wands and the 10 of Wands, success and responsibility. Hopefully this is just a hypothetical question to ask anyway, but the cards are saying it would be a heavy weight, a heavy responsibility, a heavy duty, a great burden, something that they don't particularly want to do, but there'll be success in taking him on. It comes back to what and we've got Ace of Wands on the bottom of the deck. I just honestly, I'm not trying to trigger anybody. I feel Trump is in danger of taking something on. He might be surprised at the consequences of his actions if he does take on Greenland, because it isn't just, he can go in there tomorrow and take it over. He's got the military power, but it's the economic fallout, and it's the new alliances that will be formed without USA that are the longer term repercussions of any invasion. And by invasion, I also feel it's monetary invasion. If it's a takeover just linked into power and money and might, not boots on the ground. Okay, let's pull a couple of cards then I'm going to do, I'm sorry, but I want to say old America. And I'm talking here Trump, the voice of Trump, because it's very patriarchal. That's why I'm saying old America. It's a patriarchal energy. He is not the leader that's going to be taking you into New Earth. He's the dismantler. And so by nature, the dismantler, okay, you could say he's a bridge between the old and new, to be fair. But he has got a very he's got a patriarchal energy. Of course he has. So let's just pull some cards linked into, I don't really even know what to ask. Because you see, the thing is with Trump, he wears his heart on his sleeve anyway. You sort of, he tells you everything before he's going to do it most of the time, not always. What can I ask? Let's just see what the cards have to say. So Donald Trump right now, with regards to Greenland and this whole situation that is developing. Hold on, they all fell out. That's why I didn't have to ask the question. We've got the Tower. He is the Tower. And then we've got the Two of Pentacles. And interestingly, we've got the Star again with the Chariot. Oh, now this is interesting because the Star card came out just now for EU, didn't it? And this, yeah. So I just have to be careful how I know it's ridiculous, but this card shows a naked woman, so I have to put my finger over a bit or I'll get into trouble. So this is the Star card, but you'll see there are the stars that look like the European flag. And then we've also got that flag there with stars on. This is the Chariot. So it's bringing the Tower in to the whole EU. It's everything I've said before. The Tower is coming. And then there's a choice, Two of Pentacles. Question is, who's it a choice for? Or is it just two timelines? Maybe it's two timelines. Show me Donald Trump's energy in all this. I mean, I think he is the Tower, basically. So I'm not sure I'm going to get much more. He's fulfilling his destiny. I feel that with the Star card. This is his wish. The Four of Cups. It's not going to make him... Whatever he thinks he's going to get out of this, because, you know, the thing we haven't talked about is I don't know whether he would just stop with Greenland. I think there are, in his head, might not be realised, might not become reality. I think in his head there are other countries that he has his eye on. It's not even really the countries, it's the resources that are within the countries. I laughed it off, you know, about a year ago when he started to talk about Canada as the 51st state or whatever it was, but I don't know if it is so funny anymore. And if I was Canadian, I'd be feeling a bit jittery, to be honest. So all I'm trying to say is, whatever his plans for empire are, let's put it that way, it's going to leave him feeling Four of Cups, dissatisfaction. He's still got a dark cloud hanging over his head. I think I've said in a past video, and I'm going back years now, that I felt that Trump was Nero. Isn't there something about Nero was the one that... What's that expression with Nero? Fiddling the books or something as Rome burnt. Let me just have a look. Nero. The Emperor Nero. Nero. He was an emperor, wasn't he? Emperor Nero. I did link him to Nero. Don't know when Trump's birthday is. He's a Gemini, isn't he? Because Nero died on the 9th of June, 68. What is Emperor Nero best known for? Most contemporary sources describe him as a tyrannical, self-indulgent and debauched. I don't think you could say Trump is debauched. What did Nero say before he dies? What an artist the world loses in me. I saw somebody on social media the other day saying, well, whatever you think of Trump, he's certainly making the world more interesting. We live in interesting times. Isn't that a Chinese proverb? I think it's a Chinese proverb, which is what we should be asking for is to live in interesting times. Well, we live in interesting times. Okay. I'm just going to pull a few cards to finish with regards to this Vision Quest Tarot. And I would like this to be Allow the voice of the Indigenous ones to speak. USA. I will say that on the I've got the star card again on the bottom of the deck. That's interesting. It's come up again. It's almost like an energy of it will be all okay in the end. But on the front cover of the Vision Quest, I don't know if you can see that, but we've got this Indigenous lady, and it looks like there's a kingfisher, there's cacti, but more than anything, there's this energy of the sun. It's like she's welcoming in a new day. She's celebrating a new day. So there will be a new dawn for USA. There'll be a new dawn for all of us, of course. But let's just see what these cards wish to say. So tapping into the Indigenous ones. Tapping into the Indigenous ones. It's interesting. Daughter of Water. Because what I was feeling, Six of Air, clarity. Yeah. As I was shuffling this deck, there's like a reignition of dormant DNA within us, which is Indigenous. So I've referenced, for example, like Viking blood. There's a rise of that. There's a rise of tribal blood. But with that, it's to do with the re-remembrance of the wisdom, of the innate understanding, which is why we've got the Six of Air, which is clarity, which is why we've got the Daughter of Water. We're feeling back into that. It's not a queen yet or a king, it's a daughter. It's a growing feeling, a growing remembrance of who we really are. That do we want these power battles played upon our lands anymore? Are we not tired of that? I would say yes. Just pull a few more cards. Just want to see what message does this deck have. One message for USA at this time, please. And then I'm going to pull one card for the rest of the world. One card for USA right now, please, from the Indigenous ones. We've got victory. Yeah. Got the sun again. There's a flower. Oh, we've got transformation. And we've got Two of Earth, change. Okay. And we've got grandmother. So we've got grandmother spirit. The victory card is beside the card of transformation, which is death and rebirth. The death and rebirth card shows this almost like frightened owl, you know, or certainly an owl that's sort of, it's been spooked, it's been caught unawares. It wants to feast on, or I don't know if it wants to feast, but there's this animal carcass on the floor and the owl over it and the moon in the sky and just great uncertainty, because times of transformation are uncertain times. Death and rebirth, but next to it, this is America, victory. You will rise again, but it's to do with look at the card. You see it, there's a flower there, and it's defended by spears, by arrows, a victory dance, but it's though all share in that one flower. All are part of that one flower. The Two of Earth shows the sun and the moon, and it shows something that's growing underneath the ground. Something that's growing underneath the ground. The grandmother energy, the wisdom that's being passed on to the younger generation. The turtle energy coming in as a totem as well, the home. An appreciation for all of the elements, for each other, for the contrast between night and day, shadow and light, it all being integrated. Can you hear the wind and the rain outside my window? That is Britain for you. It's like the elements are chiming in, great cleansing. Although I don't see water in this spread, but I do feel the rain outside the window is a message as well. One final card. Oh no, let me ask it again. Guidance for USA's, I wanted to say former allies. Now, of course, remember, when I'm saying this, the average person on the street hasn't become not your friend. And hopefully in America, you're feeling the same. You know, whatever other governments do, you're not judging the whole nation of people by their leader. We should never do that. We are ultimately, of course, still friends, but it's a fractured relationship that needs to go through heavy counselling, that's for sure, and listening, which is why we got the listening card coming up. So guidance from the Indigenous ones for the rest of the world as America goes through this period of profound rebirth. Inner peace. Peace. Sending peace. That's what the Indigenous ones are doing. We've got the Hermit card, which is the Shaman card in this deck, with the wolf. It's a message of peace. Whew. How are you doing after all that, guys? I am going to end with a ode to peace. Mother of Air. Let's use 2 sprays. Magenta and the Sapphire Peace Spray. Magenta bridge. Let's build a bridge. Let's bring in the energy of peace. Let's send peace to the old that is being dismantled, the new that is being formed, all the players that are allowing this to happen, to those we like, those we dislike. Sending strength and positivity to all those who are trying to forge new alliances, that they be fruitful, positive, and for the highest good of all. Let us be at peace within ourselves, peace with each other, and that whatever occurs, or whatever is said, that we remain true to our hearts, to each other, and to know that we are all doing our best right now. That when the dance floor that we have all been on is being chipped away, taken away, removed, we're all finding our feet. We all have changing emotions, changing perspectives, and that's okay. To remain nimble-footed, not fixed. It's going to be very hard if we remain very fixed. Keep the peace. Keep your love in your hearts. And send it to all of the major players in our world right now. To all of the European leaders, to Donald Trump, to his administration, to the Canadian government, all of the governments around the world, the Danish government. She's a strong leader. I'm just seeing her in my mind's eye now. It was interesting, actually, the Empress energy could be her as well. The Danish Prime Minister, she's female. I don't know her name, but she's not to be messed with, I'm hearing. She's strong. She's aware. Yeah. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Hope it helped. Take care. Be nice to each other. I'll be back soon. Bye for now. Bye. Please like the video. It does help to get it out there. I know it's boring to hear me say it, but it's true. Like and hype if you've enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye for now.